Yo, let's get back to this. All right. So, man, we're back. Initial thoughts about the Olympics. I talked a little bit in the intro, but let's really be specific about this. I truly believe that this was one of the most important Olympic games, not because of the fact it's the Olympics. So every 4 years, it's always a big deal. We know this. Whenever you have a country, it's great to be country to country. But this was the first one. This one was important because this is Olympics that now made an establishment in the U.S. and made it where we legitimately can see stars being born, really star being born. And we will talk about that with Ileana Mar. I thought that the format for this was great. I don't know if I fully like the fact that the men's competition started before the ceremonies, because there's a bit of a feeling that goes with it that it didn't really feel part of the Olympic Games. Like, unlike the soccer event where they're qualified, they were just doing their pool play and qualifiers before, but the main game is happening like all this week. It doesn't make one feel very part, and I think they got affected by the viewership on that. Like the men's just didn't have as high as the women's. Yet after opening ceremonies, the warm up, the men's played as a warm up, and then subsequently the women's really kicked off from there, which has been a consistency as well too, where the men have not performed as great as the women's has. But I will say in this one, I feel like the men actually showed out. So overall, I think the organization, I think that what they wanted to do with this Olympic Games was a lot more concrete. We could actually see a consistent format. There was consistency in the production. Looks like people really knew what they were doing. There was finally a rhythm that went with the game. One thing that I really did appreciate was that they reduced the butt shots. And don't get me wrong, I love a great butt. All right, but like it was kind of egregious to a point where it was like you're trying to go for leg. What are you trying to do here? Like, we don't need to over sexualize it. We can make this work. And I'm not even saying it just like, progressively. It's like it really didn't need to, but we can make it work. Just don't make it so blatant. And I think they did a good job in making this like an actual athletic event, and that in and of itself makes it a more attractive event for people to want to come to. You almost don't have to force people to go watch rugby sevens. And once people were there, obviously the crowd level was massive. 69,000 for the men's in the crowd, 66,000 for the women's as well. We've seen the results where the trend's going up. Shout out Sam Loves Rugby by putting up the trends chart and showing like how the reaction and searchability went up as a result of these games as well too. Massive thing. And I think this is bigger than has been done. I feel like it was bigger than it was done from the Rugby World Cup in 2023. I feel like it's definitely bigger than Rugby World Cup sevens. Like I don't even know why we have Rugby World Cup sevens. Like it's. I mean, I get it, but the Olympics has far surpassed it as a premium event. Far surpassed it. And on top of that, I think the excitement factor. We really legitimately had difference and variation. I was surprised from the men's side. Obviously, France winning it all. Fiji coming into second place. Like, and we'll talk about that. But like that was actually exciting. It was exciting to know that we don't know who was going to actually take it all. And it wasn't the regular players that were in it. Mind you, Fiji, of course, was still there, but wasn't in it. And then for the women, of course, it was anybody's game. And of course, it became even more surprised. The intensity of every game was really, really felt. So I thought that was something that was genuinely a pleasure to have with this Rugby Sevens format for the Olympics. Made it must-watch TV, even over the course of the 6 hours that it took. In addition to that, I really did feel like we got to see like this was almost a swan song Olympics, because of the fact that it had been basically about a decade that we've been with a lot of these players. So to know that so many key players were retiring at the end of this, kind of bringing a mark to this, kind of bringing a demarcation to this specific golden era of rugby sevens was really good to also add to the watch. It showed in the play, it showed in the emotion, and I mean, when you were talking about sports, that's the storylines that you want to have. Like, what is the stakes that are going with it? And I feel like we had a little bit broader of a stake. We had a little bit more specific stakes that were involved. And then I think lastly for me in this was the factor of social media. Obviously, after 2020, World Rugby and the Olympics definitely created a list for the athletes to be able to do of social media challenges to help promote the Olympics and promote the games and promote themselves. If you looked at your timeline, I swear to God, it was just like a repeat of the same thing over and over and over and over again. But again, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I'm not even mad at that being a thing. It's just, so happened to be like same day, same thing, different day, and it was kind of funny because of that. Like, I definitely have appreciated the fact that they were just like, okay, yeah, let's go ahead and just, hey, cardboard challenge. How many people, let's tell us about how hard solid the cardboard beds are so that we don't make people think that the Olympic athletes are sleeping on crap. Or let's do the same outfit challenge and do the challenge to the same song. What's the outfit they're going to have? Oh, let's go take a look at what's going to be given over to these players and go to the outfit place where they can pick out their ceremony and what their jerseys and et cetera were going to be for the Olympics. It was the same thing over and over, but I appreciate that there was a social media strategy that was involved. And again, we also got some personal from it. And obviously very much led off by Ileana with what she'd been doing. But again, this was all started from that 2020, 2021 Olympics when they had no choice but to stay in one place the entire time and not be able to do anything. So I did like the coalition. A big negative that I did have, and it's not, I understand it's for the Olympics, but the big negative that I did have was the difficulty in being able to share footage, especially big plays. Like, thankfully it's the Olympic Games, so there's a much greater audience that is paying attention to those games, and the dissemination of the games was far easier. Olympic.org, Olympic.com, wherever, or whatever channel that you had. So you're able to find places, you're able to find the games fairly easily. Unlike the Rugby World Cup, who it's difficult to find the games and they don't share very much. But I gotta say, like, it was annoying still. It was still really, really annoying. But I gotta say, like, it was good. And then of course, I love the competition that we had. There was bad teams, but even the worst teams, there was, it was just surprising. Like, even with the worst teams that came into this, they still did formidable enough, and the results were uniquely interesting for whatever it's worth. So yeah, dude, let me know what your guys' thoughts were. Like, for me, like I said, the majority of it, I truly enjoyed the Olympics. I truly enjoyed the access. I enjoyed the games. I enjoyed the walkouts. I enjoyed the spectation that they actually put into this. The walkouts were so good. It felt personal. It felt like a big event. Even with the referees, I loved the main referee walking out and picking up the ball on the way out to the pitch and stuff like that. That is spectation. It's very subtle, but it makes everything feel like a big deal. And that's what you want whenever you have these games. It has to always feel like a big mother freaking deal each time you do it. So, I will shout out to them. But let me know in the comments. Let me know in the comments, in the chat, whatever. What were your thoughts? What were your initial feelings with the Olympics this year? Did you like this compared to the other two? Did you feel like it fell behind stuff like the Rugby World Cup sevens and Rugby World Cup and HSBC sevens? Like, is there stuff that you felt like should have been more with this? I do think that there could have been a little bit more stories leading into it, but again, I think the social media kind of filled in some blanks along the way if you were able to pay attention. And some of these, God, they're cute. Anybody say I can't, I say I ain't convinced. Ride around in the city, black out the tents, gassed up, they gon' let me, yeah, fill the tank.
Buckwheat is changing lives. My name is GiftTime. I'm here with Health Enhanced Foods, and I want to tell you about one of my favorite products on our shelves, buckwheat baking mix. Buckwheat is a seed that is incredibly nutrient and protein dense. But what makes it even more important, that buckwheat baking mix is absolutely gluten-free. A lot of times whenever people have buckwheat mixes, they actually even hold wheat inside of it. So you know it's not fully gluten. And if you're a person that is celiac or diabetic, or you're just really trying to be health conscious, it's not something that you want to have to worry about. What makes our buckwheat baking mix even more important is that it is versatile. You can use it for pancakes, you can use it for waffles, you can use it for making loaves of bread, you can make it for cupcakes. But what helps even more is that it is allergen free, it is nut free, it is dairy free, that there is no additional additives in it. There's no leavening there, so that if you want to be able to raise your bread, you can put in the baking powder yourself and get it fluffy. If you don't, you absolutely do not have to. You get the bread that you love without the cost to your health. You can absolutely find buckwheat baking mix at healthenhancedfoods.com. Absolutely check it out. Get your nostalgia back. Get back to eating and loving the way that you are, and absolutely get back to the energy that you know that you can get without having to destroy yourself. I'm looking forward to seeing you get it. Let's go.